Good afternoon. I'm David Kraft. I'm with the Kansas Grazing Land Coalition. I live in east central Kansas, near the town of Gridley, about a city of about 300 people in Coffee County. I live right on the Coffee-Greenwood County line. Grew up on a small ranch there and still do contract grazing and use prescribed fire as one of my yearly maintenance tools. Many times I get asked about prescribed burning and fire. Why is it necessary? The use of fire for some is a scary proposition, and for others it's something that we do pretty commonly. But why is it really important from an ecosystem standpoint? We can look back at the history of the prairies in the central part of the country, and we've seen how they've diminished through time by fragmentation, by urban buildup, just by the use of farming practices to feed the people. We have lost a lot of the prairie. And what is remaining now is a landscape that must have fire to be able to maintain itself, or to at least even possibly regenerate itself from year to year. And so fire has been a part of these ecosystems since the beginning of their time and existence on our landscape. In the eastern part of the state of Kansas, we have tallgrass prairies. As we move into the middle part of the state, we get into mixed grass prairies. And as we move even further out west, we get into shortgrass prairies. All three of them have had some level and use of fire by either Native Americans or naturally through time. And so fire is necessary for those plants to not only persist, but to thrive and do quite well on our landscapes. And so fire has been a huge part of how they've evolved through time, and it will be quite necessary for fire to continue to be used for them to exist into the future. Sometimes we also get asked, how often do I need to apply prescribed burning on my landscape? And this really depends a lot on the goals that the producer might have, why they're using fire, and maybe what the needs of that plant community are, and how frequently we might need to use fire. Certainly in the eastern part of the state, in the Flint Hills, it's not uncommon to see pastures on native tallgrass prairies being burned annually. And there's a few reasons for that. One, the more frequently we use that fire, we control any kind of sprouting or resprouting species, woody species primarily, that might tend to do well in those higher rainfall areas. It also has been shown for years now that animal performance is improved, especially in yearling cattle, when we see prescribed fire used in the spring months. An extra quarter pound a day of gain on those livestock over a 90-day period is profit in the handbook of those individuals using prescribed fire. As we move further west into the mixed grass prairie, we don't need to use fire probably nearly as often. The plant community changes from dominance of tallgrass to more mixed grass species, and we really don't have to see or use fire nearly as often. However, as we start to see invasive species, invasive woody species in particular, eastern red cedar, start to encroach, then we do have to use fire, probably at a frequency of maybe every once to 5 or 6 years, and sometimes maybe stretch that out to once every 10 years once those eastern red cedars are under control. Sometimes we get conflicted in really underestimating the invasion of woody species on our landscapes, and especially in our prairies. You go near a large metropolitan area and you'll see that maybe the land that sells for the highest price might be something that would be considered invaded with many woody species that might have been easily controlled by prescribed burning. One thing that is always a part of the fear and anxiety that comes along with the use of prescribed fires is just the danger that comes along with it. Not only just in the fear of a fire escaping maybe the targeted area, this prescription area that you're trying to apply fire on, and what damage that might cause off-site, but also other things like smoke and just the cause of whether that would be breathing disorders or anything that might result from that. Another opportunity that exists for individuals in the state of Kansas and many states around us are contact with what we call a prescribed burn association. And this simply is a group of individuals that have common interest and common goals of being able to use prescribed burns on their landscape pool their talents and their skills, as well as maybe even their operations, their land to be used, but also the machinery that they have available to safely apply prescribed burns on the landscape.